Oh, hi, guys. Okay, this is going to be so different, so bear with me, but I have to jump on and let you guys know, like, what I have been getting because this was such a profound moment for me, and I really hope that you guys get something useful from this. Like I said, this is going to be very different, but bear with me because holy crap. Okay, this morning I was watching, if you guys have seen the channel Astrolata, she does planetary updates. And I was watching how she was talking about all this Capricorn energy. Good morning, everyone, by the way, and thank you for joining. I know it's kind of early depending on where you are, but just wait for this because I am mind blown. So, like I said, I was watching Astrolata and she was talking about the solar eclipse and what's going to be happening, like the energies that we'll be receiving from that. And it will be a lot of truth that comes in, okay? And this is why I love this. These are the cards that I had pulled this morning to kind of go along with this. Seven of Cups, that's seeing through an illusion. And this is, oh, I cannot wait. So Astrolata was talking about how with this energy movement, there's also going to be some perceptions coming to light about relationships with our family, like especially the relationship with the father. And especially when she said that, I was really blown away because I've been coming across a lot of information that has been kind of like guiding me to help people that I've been working with. So get this, okay? I was researching on obviously like narcissistic dynamics like between the parent and the child, okay, and specifically the father and the daughter. Now when the father can be narcissistic, because especially this might not apply for all of you guys, only take it if it applies, but this is going to play out in really different ways. You know, especially if you have a really strained relationship with your mother, if it's really, really difficult, but maybe you put your father on a pedestal, you can do that with either parent, okay? You can either put your mother on a pedestal or your father, either or, but there is going to be some type of like victim, or you know, there's a lot of mirroring that goes on, there's a lot of shame that gets projected in these dynamics, okay? So this is good. Yeah, Tina, I totally get it. So I think this will really help. So especially right now during Christmas, that's why I think it's so profound. You know, you're either thinking about your family or you're actually spending time with your family. And it's so that all these like dynamics, all these things can come to light. Okay. And I'm going to explain all this. Just bear with me. I know this is so random and different from what I normally do. So, when you guys meet someone new, and this is what I've been seeing, you know, it doesn't even have to be someone new that you're meeting. It could be someone that you'll come across in the future. Or for some of you, this is going to help bring some clarity from the past dynamics, how they've played out, so that you can start to see the pattern, you know, see the red flags exactly for what they are so that you can pull yourself back from the energy. Okay, that's what this Queen of Swords is, the Ace of Swords and the King of Wands. So, you know, in our society, sexuality and things like that are over glamorized, you know, like there's the porn industry and things like that, not to get into all of this stuff, but that's why a lot of us are drawn to like sexual relationships, and that's a very big drive in all of us. It's a very animalistic nature, and it's because of this, okay? In your psychological development, you guys know that I talk about this constantly, but it's the oral anal phase of development, that from 0 months to 18 months of infancy, okay, right? 0 months to 18 months of infancy. So you're discovering the whole entire world through your mouth and through your sexual organs. Those are the areas that are stimulated. And I was realizing that, say for instance, there's an issue with the father. You know what I mean? There could be some underlying control issues with the father figure. And say, for example, you had one parent, say the mother, that was more vocal or more shameful, you know, she expressed herself more and maybe had more emotional issues. you can see maybe some control issues in your father, you're going to see maybe even for some of you, it's going to be a bit more covert. Okay. Just throwing that out there if that applies. But this is why I want to pull this into this. Okay. When you come across a very strong sexual, like attraction to another human, this area is going to be stimulated because specifically if you had a parent that had any type of unhealed parts of them, right? Shame, guilt, and fear. Shame is the basis and the foundation for all addiction, all even sexual and chemical to other people. Okay. So when you come across a new person and you're starting to feel that sexual pull, and I'm going to get into the details of that in just a minute, but that's what it's going to go down to. It's going to go down to this programming when you were a child. And that's why you can't see it, because you don't remember this phase of development. It's completely blocked from your conscious mind. It's down programmed in your subconscious. So this is how you can always tell that your relationships are going to play out in the exact same way that your parents have gone through, that it's going to end up being more of a codependent and a chemical addiction to one another, is that you're going to have a strong sexual attraction to probably someone who shames you in some way, shape, or form. This is how it can be played out. Okay. Now, this is so crazy. When you come across other people, because going back to the parent relationship, you probably had a parent, maybe even more of the father figure, that you were chasing after their acceptance and their love, right? Because if they were pulling back their energy from you and they had all these high expectations of what you should be, who you should be as a person, then you're going to constantly, it's a reflection of them rejecting themselves, which is also a reflection of even you, how you reject yourself and you go outside of yourself to look for the approval of another person. We all do that to some extent as humans. That's why we're all going through this and learning who in some way, shape, or form will reject you. The way that you can initially tell that this is going to play out is if the person has other options openly available and that they say something. So, for example, maybe they compliment another woman, how she looks physically, and you start to feel ashamed of yourself, maybe physically or your eyes. There's some type of initial feeling that you'll be like, just feel embarrassed of yourself, or you'll start to look at another person and think like, oh, like I wish I was like them or something like that. You'll start to feel that little bit of shame within yourself. And that's how you know that the dynamic is starting to play out in the same exact way as your upbringing, as the shame, guilt, and fear that you were raised with some type of narcissistic dynamic, okay? Because it is a reflection of you and something you're wanting to change about yourself or improve on, but it's the shame that's already programmed inside of you that's going to pull you towards this person who is putting someone else on a pedestal, and they might not even consciously be shaming you, but you're going to be pulled to it because that's a part of you. You're already shaming yourself, and so you're being drawn to a person that will in some way, shape, or form, maybe in the future, shame you. Okay. It's crazy how this plays out. And so what can happen, this is why I think this is fascinating. Okay, here's the sexual attraction: Ace of Wands, King of Wands. So like I said, this is going to either play out in the past that you guys will be able to kind of really be analytical and pay attention to the fine line details so that you can see this stuff from the beginning and choose a different path. I'm saying that because down here at the bottom, we've got Seven of Wands, Four of Pentacles, and the Chariot card. Raising the bar for yourself. That's weird. I don't know what that is. Raising the bar for yourself, raising your expectations and deciding to move forward when you start to feel that. That's why when I come across people, I try to use them as like indicators or markers of where I'm at in my relationship with myself, seeing beyond the illusion, seeing beyond the kind of chemical illusion that you have on yourself, okay? So raising your standards, and rather than like succumbing to the dynamic and letting yourself get pulled in maybe sexually or into this attraction, and getting into a dynamic with someone who keeps their options open, who doesn't want to commit to you, deciding to elevate yourself, pull your energy back from them and move forward. Like that, these are literally all cards that popped out. I did not like them or anything. This is so hilarious that these popped out. So what I'm gonna say, guys, like, here's the other thing that I was gonna tell you, okay? Um, okay, I was gonna talk about the really tiny details of how this plays out, okay? So like I said, for example, you might come across a new person and you're automatically kind of observing each other. The way that you can also tell that you're coming across someone that is going to be kind of similar to your whole upbringing and that whole dynamic is you're going to see the intensity in them. They're going to seem like an enigma. You can't figure them out, and you might actually be the same, okay? Because this is a very over analytical type of person, because especially if you've grown up with a covert narcissist or someone along those lines that you had to be unbelievably perceptive, then you're going to automatically be that way. The way you step into dynamics and certain relationships is that you're overly perceptive of everyone and everything in your environment because you're automatically looking for the abuse. You're looking, it's like a part of the, self-protection and self-preserving that you have to go through to help yourself not fall into those dynamics. So that's also how you can tell that you're going to come across that same type of person, is because they're going to have an intensity about them that you're highly attracted to, okay? And this is so crazy. So when you feel that attraction, okay, this is what I was saying. So for example, especially if this plays out in the male female, which does tend to be kind of the pattern, is that the male tends to be a bit more like sexual and disconnected. That doesn't have to be the case, but I'm just going by kind of the general popular like gender dynamic, okay? So don't freak out that I'm saying this, but and where the female can be a bit more like emotionally attached because she's being pulled in by the chemicals, and the masculine is more focused on the sexual, keeping his options open, because that's more of the animalistic kind of like play out. Is the masculine's going to want to like continue on his generations, like plant his seed, not in a gross way, that's just how it is. So what happens is okay, what was I going to say? Yes. So you'll be able to see that there's this part of you that maybe you're around this masculine. It can just be the energy, and they maybe like compliment another person or say something like that. And it's probably complimenting something in another person that you desire to be like in yourself. This is how you holographically create these situations. It's really crazy because it's already something in your subconscious mind that you're playing over and over again. Like, say that you're wanting to eat better, or say that you're wanting to work out more, or you're wanting a work environment, like a better job, or to pursue a career. This can seriously play out in your like in relationships with other humans, just based off of your thoughts and the brain chemicals, okay? If you're shaming yourself in some way, shape, or form, this is how you're going to be sexually attracted to another person, okay? Because it goes down to this earlier phase of development. So when you come across this person, like I said, they might like you'll feel some type of attraction to them, but they might be complimenting another person and something, maybe a physical aspect of another person, and you feel like some type of shame within yourself, right? You're like, oh, like I wish I was like that, but you're going back to your chasing the approval of probably your father or the masculine. So that's how you're going to start being sucked in, like in a sexual way. You're going to start being pulled into the whole dynamic of chasing after someone's approval. And so that's why it's calling for that you need to like pull yourself back. You need to raise your standards, not only for yourself, but for the people that you're attracted to. Like, start to actually do the things that you're wanting to improve on in your life. Make those commitments. So that's why I was talking about right now with this energy shift moving into the eclipse, but also with this sextile that's happening between like Pluto and Saturn. It's all about making commitments and being dedicated to your transformations, the things that you know make you feel good about yourself, because that's what's going to pull you out of the shame cycle, being addicted to people who abuse you and shame you, because it is a reflection of even you doing that to yourself. Okay, that's the craziest part. But you can holographically project it and create it in your reality, but just based off of how you were when you were a child, okay, when you were an infant. So the other thing I was going to say, this is what I wanted to talk about. If you guys heard the other day, so on my little community wall, I posted that picture of the narcissistic and empath dynamic, right? And it's where a lot of people have this perception of how the woman was naked, and she was, and so a lot of people were like, she's sucking him in, she's seducing him and pulling him in with all the others. And it's not necessarily about that. That's what I thought was really fascinating, listening to all the comments. And yes, the narcissistic empathic dynamic, those are just labels, but they're labels to describe the way that we give our energy and the way some people take it. That's it. It's nothing like to shame people with a label. It's an explanation of how energy is given and taken between us. So that's how you can fall into this dynamic, because here you are probably starting to give your attention and chase after the approval of someone that isn't ever going to give you approval, because they also haven't found it in themselves. Okay. But going back to that message, that picture, when people tend to be like, say for instance, the cluster B, you know, in the DSM, like the psychology book, the cluster B personality disorders like histrionic and things like that, where it tends to be someone more sexual in nature, or that they have this powerful sexual pull on other people. It is because they went through some type of sexual abuse when they were younger. And so they have that still programmed into their psyche. That's a part of the illusion. The thing that pulls at us is if it's a chemical addiction from your earlier childhood, especially for those of you, if you maybe like some type of thing that happened in a sexual way when you were younger, maybe even times that you don't remember. If it came down to this time when you were developing as a child, you're not going to be able to see it. It's something that programs you from that earlier age, right? So, what was I going to say? So for those of you that have those intense, like shameful sexual experiences that happened when you were younger, this is why you still have strong sexual, like magnetic pulls to other people. So you might be able to see that even when you come across another person that you're sexually attracted to that's shaming or rejecting you, you might even start to see that you are starting to play into that dynamic. Like maybe starting to even like seduce them, or, you know, like flirt with them, or kind of pull them in. Even this can be in subtle ways. You start to bring up sexual things subtly in the conversation, because that is what we do. We're sexual, animalistic kind of beings. So if you have this conversation with this person, you might bring up something kind of flirtatious and subtle, like, oh, about having naked pictures or something. But the underlying intention of that is to get someone's thoughts to think about you in that way. Vice versa, this can happen between males or females, but you will be able to see how you are a part of it in some way, shape, or form. But both people are responsible. So that's why I really wanted to talk about that picture that I posted on my community wall, because people are still really playing into the dynamic of one person being at fault, one person being like the perpetrator, and one is the victim. People just play this all out subconsciously. Okay, it's nothing that we're really aware that we do. Both people play into it in specific ways. It's just that one person, usually the empath, tends to be a little bit more of like the victim. But the fascinating thing is that down the road, probably the empath and the narcissist are going to both perceive them as victims. Because when you're talking about the family dynamic, you're going to, at one time in your family, especially, if you've been raised in a narcissistic family dynamic, there's going to be one time in your life where you've been like the scapegoat or you've been the golden child. You can see that you can play out both dynamics at certain times in your life where you're the favorite child, but maybe for the majority of the time you are the scapegoat. It's really interesting because you don't even realize that maybe your parents, if you're the scapegoat and you're the odd one out in your family, you can also be able to see that the way that the parents kind of pin the siblings against each other is that they will maybe make you, if you're the scapegoat, they can make you appear to be the golden child in the family, okay? Which is so trippy. So that's why maybe all your siblings don't get along with each other or they're very competitive in nature because your parents have they probably do this with all the children, make them feel like they're scapegoats or the outcast, but and then talk up the other children to the others. But it's all just so messed up because this is all an illusion, it's a reflection of the disconnection from self. If someone hasn't healed themselves and gotten down to this level of development and really figured out that they're being affected down to this core, then yeah, you're not going to be able to see it. So let me really quick, and thank you so much, VC, for the $20. I really appreciate that. That's really nice. Sorry, I'm just going through the messages really quick. So nice. Yeah, different set of choices and subsequent options. Yeah, those intense connections. That's what I've started to realize. Because the intense connections, guys, like the whole twin flame community, and I'm not talking down to this because I know this is a very like sensitive subject, is the twin flame dynamic is such a codependent chemical addiction. It's a trauma bond at the core. And that's why you're going to have this very sexual magnetic pull to this person because it is getting to the foundation of you as a human in your psyche and your development. Okay? It's getting to those core issues that you're not able to see. And so this is what I was starting to realize is like, not only in my own life, but a lot of people that I work with are really working through this stuff and moving forward. Your biggest goal and thing is to keep moving forward, even through that sexual attraction, that intensity that you have, that sexual pull that you have to a person. That's how you're going to know that it's going to play out in this runner chaser dynamic where you're chasing after someone's approval and they're never going to give it to you and they're going to keep their options open, and then you're going to have to play out all this stuff. So you might as well just move forward. You might as well just pull back your energy right there, elevate your standards, elevate yourself, pull back your energy and move forward straight up. These are the cards that pulled out. So there was something else that I was going to say too. Dude, I was just getting all this information this morning, and so I'm trying to like make sure that I get it all in here. Yes, Fit Goddess. I was gonna say that. So Fit Goddess says, wonder if this applies when you first meet someone and you feel an intense sexual attraction. Do they feel it too? Yes, they do. Okay. I have seen this literally right in front of my eyes. Like I've been watching a person that I have kind of sensed this with, and I'm noticing that he's doing the same. Like he's feeling this intense attraction, and he's even like putting kind of leads out there for this to turn into a sexual dynamic, and I've started like pulling away because I'm like, oh, this is going to play out in a similar way. And it's just a sign that there's something else that you're elevating about yourself, something that you're maybe becoming more committed to, because that's that Capricorn energy. The Capricorn energy is all about that goal oriented setting, discipline, kind of things for yourself to improve on your life, to become better so that you feel more in love with yourself. Okay, that's what we're wanting to get to the core to. Okay, with age, I've noticed the sexual energy from parents as well as a control mechanism. Yeah, Mariah, totally. It's crazy how that plays out. Yeah, Lauren, they're definitely red flags. Like, absolutely red flags. I was a runner, then surrendered, then he went poof. Yes. Um, Fit Goddess, yeah, it can totally play out in the same sex as well, which I find is really fascinating. Some of you guys, not all of you, but if you have, maybe if you had some type of a sexual thing happen from your childhood, this is what's crazy. Okay, let me dive into this part, okay? So, for those of you that have siblings, okay, you are, and especially if you're like the baby of the family, it definitely depends on your placement, you know, for sure. But say, for instance, you're the baby of the family and you have older siblings, and maybe you have like this strong sexual pull to both sexes, you know, like to males and females. You're bisexual. Sometimes what can happen from that is that you add some type of programming, because think about this, if you were raised in a narcissistic dynamic, right? And you had all this shame, guilt, and fear that was projected at you from not only your parents, right? Because if your parents have unhealed aspects of themselves and they're like, you're an aspect of them, you're a creation of them. When you come into the world, they're looking at a reflection of themselves in you because they made you, right? You are full of their chemicals, their amino acids, their DNA, and everything. So, everything about themselves that they dislike, they're going to be looking at you and they're going to be passing on that shame, guilt, and fear. That's the entanglement. So, when they are, say, for example, they have a lot of sexual shame about their bodies or their sexuality, if they're maybe like, I know this is really intense, but if they're maybe like looking at your genitals and feeling like some type of shame or they feel embarrassed, you take on that as well. That's a part of your own chemical programming. So that's how it can also attract you to these shameful sexual relationships, is because there's something about you that has an attraction to people either shaming you. You know what I mean? Like shaming you or shaming your sexuality. So going back to, if you have other siblings that play into this dynamic, you are also going to be taking on all of their shame, right? Because your siblings are all going to come around you when they're born and you're going to entangle with them. And so if they've also taken on that shame, guilt, and fear from your parents, you entangle with that as well. And then that comes into your whole chemical programming, how you will eventually come to this type of dynamic in your life. Okay, which is really fascinating. So, especially if you had like a brother and a sister that had some type of sexual shame, some of you might have actually been in some type of like incestual, or, you know, went through some type of sexual trauma when it came to your siblings. So, if that plays out in some way, shape, or form, then you might have like a bit of a sexual pull to the same sex or the opposite sex. It doesn't matter. But you have to look at the chemical that's pulling you to a person. Are you feeling, are they like setting up standards in some way, shape, or form? Because, like, and this is going to play out in both ways. Some might be setting up high standards and you shame yourself. Like, if someone, like I said at the beginning, if someone that you're around, they compliment another person that maybe has an amazing body, they're really fit, and you feel ashamed of your own body, that's going back to that sexual shame. Okay, that's how you know it's all going to play out in the same exact way, because it's reflecting this core foundation of your programming. So that's how you're going to be able to tell. Not only are they putting that out there already, if you start trying to please them. That's you giving your energy. And that's how it's going to turn into all of this. Like the narcissistic dynamic, we play this out over and over again throughout our lives. Not only, this is why I'm talking about that, this actually could be playing out in your work environments. You know, like every single part of our life, our friendships, our living environments, our sexual partners, our work environments, all of them are a reflection of this initial programming that we've had from the very, very beginning, the very get-go. So it's always going to be someone that you're not supposed to be with. You know, it's that risque, like, ooh, this is so naughty, like I shouldn't do it. That's how you know that you're going to pull into shame and how you're going to pull into this dynamic, like straight up. So I'm not saying it in a way like, oh, do it, or I'm not shaming it. It's coming to this clarity and realization so that we don't keep repeating this stuff because it's painful as hell. Yeah, it is not enjoyable. So, okay, so Lauren, so if it's a strong sexual attraction, it is this dynamic. So how could one ever find the right person? It would be a more subtle attraction and a deeper emotional connection. Yes. When you first initially have a sexual pull to a person, that's how you know that you have more work to do on yourself and elevating yourself, working on yourself, and raising the bar, raising your standards. That's where you also have to be very realistic, Queen of Swords, be very logical, and pull yourself out of illusions, especially when it comes to people, because there actually might be things about the people that you're attracted to that shame you, that you like, what was I going to say? Where there's things that actually you don't like about that other person. Things that you're like, you settle for. You're like, oh, I don't really like that. Or I'm not totally attracted to them, but you settle because, and that can be for multiple reasons. Maybe because you don't think that you'll ever get better. Maybe there's a part of you, there's going to be multiple fears that pull out, maybe timelines or something that you don't like about yourself where you just settle for certain people or relationships. That's also how you know that you're going to play this out. So don't settle, okay? Like never settle. Continue to push for what you're wanting in life. Continue to reach towards that because that is also a reflection of you showing love for yourself. Okay. So, Lauren, yeah, going back to your question, I know that it can seem like how could one ever find the right person? That has to not even be a factor in your mind. Like, it has to be so much about that you're so in love with yourself that you would continue to go the rest of your life not being with anyone because you're so dedicated to you just being happy with you. Okay? Continuing on your progress. Because when we're talking about alchemizing this stuff from childhood, it's intense. You know, this takes a lot of soul work, a lot of spiritual growth. And a lot of us, the initial reason for really desiring to be with a partner can sometimes it can be an illusion that comes from a very codependent or narcissistic dynamic when you can be like, I have this really deep desire. It's a good thing. It probably means that you are going to manifest that, but there is going to be a process of you like alchemizing yourself and continuing to elevate yourself past. This can even be in a societal way, like past levels of poverty, like past levels that have been set up in our whole society, right? The class system. If you're elevating yourself from having no money, then there's going to be a process to that, to getting to that level where you feel really confident in yourself and you've, eliminated and dissolved a lot of your own fears and your like problems with self-worth. You know what I mean? Oh, quickly, Isadore, thank you so much for the $9.99. I really appreciate that. Rolinda, yeah, you guys might want to watch the replay because I've really dove into this. And it will be really cool to watch from the beginning. So, yeah, okay. Nancy, I love his smell. Totally. That's like totally the chemicals and the pheromone that you can be attracted to in another person. Um, Nancy, I know what you mean. Sorry, I'm just going through the comments really quick and see if there's any like questions or anything. They can even enter your dreams. Yes, fit goddess. That is when you also know that when you start dreaming about a person too, you know that they are coming into your energy and you are starting to play out a subconscious dynamic, which is really interesting. Um yeah, it is a lot to take, but once this is why I really wanted to let you guys know what I was picking up on because I really feel like just coming across these realizations of patterns will really help to make a lot of progress during this solar eclipse. You know, there's going to be a lot of intense energy. So if you can get a jump start on like coming into realizations about your own development and getting to the core of this stuff, then it will help you to move forward just a little bit quicker and elevate yourself in certain ways, okay? Sounds like I was just thank you for this. And no problem, guys. Yeah, that Queen of Swords, she's just like she sees through all the illusions, you know what I mean? And oh, one thing that I was gonna tell you guys, okay? Um, Oh, yes, really quickly before I dive into this, goddess, yeah, some sexual pulls catch you off guard. And I wonder if when you blush, that's how people can tell. That's possible, you know, like people can see that attraction. The only reason it's catching you off guard is because there's something about you that and I'm saying this with love because we all do this to a certain extent, but this is why I talk a lot about meditation because meditation is going to slow down your reality. It's like putting things in slow motion so that you can really like watch dynamics as they happen. You can watch yourself playing things out chemically. Chemically, you're like an observer. You're watching things being played out. It's fascinating to watch. This is why I talk about meditation so much. It's going to help you see into your own psyche and your own subconscious mind, okay? Um yeah, I'm telling you guys, when it comes to your twin flames, like, ugh, if they're not willing to do the work on themselves, get away. Get away from them. It's such a crazy dynamic to fall into. It's a trauma bond, straight up. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, definitely watch this over again and just let it sit in your mind, okay? Let's see. Holy cow, I didn't know that there's a lot of things, a lot of comments. If you still want that, Nancy, then it's just a sign of your own healing. You know, it's a sign of you actually wanting a deeper connection with yourself. Um, can the twin flame purposely come into your dream? Yeah, that's totally possible. People can start inserting themselves in your energy field sexually in a dream, however that plays out. The other thing I was going to tell you guys, and I'll read your comment in a second, Sarah. Um, when you are coming across someone that you have a sexual attraction to, and say for instance they're for lack of a better word, and I know people get bothered when I use labels, but say you are coming across a narcissist and you're falling into this dynamic, okay? One way that you're going to be able to sense like that it's also going to fall into this dynamic is you'll be able to perceive, right, that Queen of Swords, she's seeing through the illusion. This person might be like charismatic, emotional, or deep, or you know, you might be talking about like a lot of similar things, but it's also because they're reading you a lot. They're looking at the things that you're interested in, they're studying you, they're just as perceptive as you. Okay, that's why you guys are attracted to each other, and why there's that deep connection is because both of you are probably, you both had similar like narcissistic dynamics, so you're both going to have this very intense perception of other people, which is going to help you to feel really comfortable around each other. It makes you guys feel like, oh my gosh, this person is just like me. But both of you are analyzing each other just as much. But the person might be more at that shame, guilt, fear level. Maybe one person is more than the other, just putting that out there. It doesn't always have to play that way. Both of you can be at the same level of shame, guilt, and fear. That's that chemical draw to each other, okay? So be open to if you have that same level as them, okay? Just try to stay open because that's going to help you to have more growth if you can stay open to that being a possibility. So, say for instance, you feel that intense, the eye contact and everything, you can feel the intensity between the two of you. What's going to happen is you will start to be able to see that there's something kind of off about the person. And that's where you have to be very really looking at the reality of the person and the situation and not listen to their words, because their words are going to be projecting a reality or an illusion that they live in. So, for example, they might be going through such a hard time that they're living in their own like illusion or fantasy to try to cope with whatever trauma that they're going through currently. So they might be talking a lot about like that they have all these offers for like millions of dollars, you know what I mean? And but instead of doing that, they chose to work like at a library. And I know a lot of people would be like, "Oh my gosh, that's so admirable," or that's so unmaterialistic. And that's all bullshit because there's no glory in keeping yourself. If that truly makes you happy, great, but you'll be able to sense that in another person if there's something disconnected about what they're wanting in their life and what their current reality is. Do you know what I'm saying? You'll be able to feel it. So that's where you have to stay really realistic, because that's going to be a sign as well that a person can be really disconnected from reality. From reality, okay? Um, Let me see. There was someone's question. Yeah. So, Sarah, what about when you think you found your perfect sexual match? The most intense chemistry that we've both talked about being unique to each other. Now I don't want to bond with anyone else or try. Sarah, I'm going to tell you straight up, like it's a reflection. This is going to play out similar to your parents. And I'm going to tell you too, like even I've been through that in the past where I've been like, oh my gosh, the sexual match and connection is amazing. What if I never find it again? And it's not true. And the thing that you'll realize, especially once you've been through enough painful relationships and dynamics, is that the pain isn't even worth the sexual connection. Like, to me, now the point that I'm at, I'm like, yeah, sex is great, but to me, I'd so much rather be in a relationship where it's stable, it's committed, and it's both people that are like emotionally investing in the relationship. Like, to me, that's become a last priority. And that's more of that logic, seeing through an illusion of a sexual connection. So you have to kind of apply that to your own situation. Like, is the dynamic between the two of you painful? Like, can you see red flags? Is there something about your intuition that's telling you it's off? Because if that's the case for you, the sexual connection is meaning that you're going to play out some type of abusive dynamic, straight up. Okay. My twin is a covert, somatic narc. I've left, moved away, and he pursues me. He won't do the work and blames and abuses me. How can I break this tie? You have to work on yourself. You have to fall in love with yourself. You have to work on yourself in a financial way, a health way, a spiritual way. I know that sounds daunting, and it's you. Peace and loving peace. Let's see. So, Susie, so respectfully, if I want a well-rounded relationship in all areas, including great sexually, how do I recognize? You just have to pay attention to the beginning. Okay, that's why this Queen of Swords, very first card, you have to pay attention at the beginning and be very present. Don't get caught up in your illusions of what the relationship could be. Don't be caught up by the sexual attraction. Don't be caught up by the physical attraction and the charisma. You have to be very realistic and logical. That's it. You have to be pay it and like educate yourself. This is about the mind. Researching, doing work on the things that you've done in the past that didn't work and start to apply it in your current dynamics. And it doesn't mean that the sex is going to be bad. Like, when you choose this, it just means that you're going to come to that realization that, hey, like, the sex isn't as important to me being happy. Okay. Yeah, it's totally not worth the pain. Relate so much at the phase of completely disconnecting my energy. It's so hard and painful. Totally. And that's the sign of the addiction. Okay, is when, especially when it feels painful. I've experienced that recently when I kind of like pulled away from some people in my life, and it was like heartbreaking. And that's also how I knew that it was like a very codependent relationship, is when you feel that intense pain to pull away from a person, that can be a sign that you're very addicted to that person. Okay, can be. It's going to be different for everyone, but for general, I would say that is the case. Totally. It's such a reality check. You're like, holy crap, like what just happened? Is it ever okay to ghost? I tried walking away, but he makes it very hard at a place where I don't want to explain. Darian, yes, it is okay. That's why when people are like, "Oh, they ghost you," and that type of thing, um, when it comes to dynamics like, okay, when you're dealing with a narcissist, especially, they might do that as a natural kind of response. But it's fascinating, like, are they maybe ghosting you because you could be chemically reminding them of their own mother, of maybe having a controlling parent, or where you're more emotionally invested, and they're starting to feel like maybe, and I'm saying this all with love, okay? It's all about that clarity and seeing through illusions. So if you've entangled with someone and you have this deep connection with them, and they ghost you, it could be partly because they're like, holy freaking crap. They're starting to feel like maybe you're reminding them of their own triggers, maybe of their own, dynamics and relationships that they grew up with that were very like emotionally like helicopters, or emotionally dependent on them for their happiness. So if they're starting to feel that, they're probably going to ghost you or all of a sudden disconnect and pull away. So people shaming ghosting, I actually think it's ridiculous, because when it comes to dynamics like this, sometimes, yeah, we would love to all be the type of people where we have consideration for one another. We give each other like reasons and excuses why we don't see it working. That's also unbelievably unrealistic, because like that's you again depending on someone to provide you something for you to feel happy and fulfilled, and it's unrealistic. Like, you, whatever is best for a person is what they should do. So when we talk about going no contact between like codependent relationships, that is sometimes what you need to do to completely cut it off, because if you're dealing with a manipulative person, they're going to start pulling you back in. If their deepest fear is of rejection and abandonment, they're going to do everything in their power to pull you back in, because you're starting to bring up their biggest fear. So sometimes what is necessary to get out of the dynamics is Queen of Swords, cutting it off, no contact, because you have to almost be that black and white. That's not allowing your emotions to run you, to rule you. You know what I mean? So yeah, I do think it's okay to ghost, but that's my own like kind of personal opinion. Let's see. Which was it? Yeah, I wish there was an addicted repellent. I would be spraying it daily. Totes, me too. Yeah. So yeah, that's my biggest goal, is to help everyone. Like, yeah, let's start 2020 done with all these dynamics, the trauma bonds. Let's start elevating ourselves, like elevating our standards for yourself. Start really implementing the things that you know you need to do for your success moving forward. This can even be travel for some of you, like relocating and starting in a new place. So that might be something that's really awesome for you. Keep moving forward toward your dreams, and don't let people pull you back that are kind of more codependent. Don't let yourself fall into these dynamics, okay? All right. Okay, I'm on the right path. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave that there. I just wanted to jump on, and for you guys, if you want to like jump back to the beginning and just kind of replay this over, it'll be maybe make a little bit more sense, especially for those of you that jumped in maybe in the middle or something. But yeah, I love you guys so much. I'll probably jump on in the next couple days and do a couple more updates as I'm coming across like more information because I'm getting a lot. So don't be surprised if you see me soon again. Thank you again so much for the donations. I love you guys so much, and I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day. Lots of love. Bye.